Okay, so in this tutorial I'm just going to look at creating a breakdown, and the breakdown is really there to allow the viewer to see the work that you put into each individual shot. It's quite interesting. If you look at that shot, doesn't really look like a green screen shot. Sure, in this shot, for example, there are elements are virtual, but like I said, there are some shots where you're not really sure which bits are real and which bits aren't. So a breakdown's great for letting the viewer really understand the amount of work that went into each shot. And you can see with this one, they've done the breakdown as two sets of video that run in the frame, the original with some information underneath as well, letting you know what they did with it, and then the final outcome. And sometimes they have an intermediary as well, but generally it just seems to be these two frames. And I'd say the thing with the breakdown is you can show them in multiple ways. Oops, and that's my example that I'm going to pull up. Usually I've had in the past a lot of students who've just done breakdowns via wipes as a quick and easy way to sort of show the steps that were the incremental steps that were taken. So you have a few wipes that show the changes you made. But I've also had students who've given me breakdowns where, similar to the one we just saw, the Star Wars one, it's a picture-in-picture. So, well, in this one actually, it's a whole variety of things. But yeah, there's a few that are picture-in-picture. And again, like I said, you can go with whichever one you prefer. Just pause that, save some memory there. Right. So what I've done is I've got, in fact, if I just go into here, I've got an original shot, which is just this thing. Then I've got the VFX element that I created, which was this bit here with the text. And then I have some grading that was applied on top afterwards. So there's sort of three things here that I want to show. Now, you can, if you want to with your breakdown, just go original, finished, which again, in the Star Wars version, for example, there were a lot of elements, but you're just seeing how it looked when it was shot and how it looked when it was finished. You can put your breakdown together however you like, as long as the viewer is able to, at some point, see the original rushes and what you've finished with. If you want to put in additional steps or show the little things you did, that's up to you. Obviously becomes more work as you start to do that. So I've done a few different examples, and this one will feature, as you can see, all three different steps. So there's a few ways you can do breakdowns, and in fact, even though I'll show you like three here, you can pick something completely different. So what I've done is I've put the original video at the bottom track. The VFX work came in the next one, and then the graded version came at the top. So you probably have, rather than just this one shot three times, you'd have a whole timeline running along with every individual shot. Your first video track, if it's organized, like I said, should be your draft, your original edit that you put together, whereas your VFX work would have come in on top, and then your graded work would have come on top of that. So you should have, hopefully, this timeline that's built up of all these this work that you've done. So what you can do, or one of the ways you can do it, so I'm going to go I don't know, about here, and I'm going to go to the effects panel. One of the tools I'll use a crop. So what a crop allows you to do, so once you drop the crop onto it, I can go to the effect controls. It allows me to basically just show more or less of the pictures, crop the picture from the side. So if I turn the other two off for a second, so now that I've turned those two off, you don't need to do this as part of the crop work. I just want to demonstrate what a crop does. There's nothing really, in a sense, behind this clip. So if I try to crop it, you'll see you get black. So that's basically what a crop does. It allows me to lose a bit of the sides or the top or the bottom. That's it. Obviously you've got your little stopwatch icon, so you can animate those crops as well. So I'll turn the other layers back on. So that means if I crop the top layer, you'll see the one underneath, the VFX layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop that completely so it's gone. So we've got the VFX layer. And I'm just going to turn on the stopwatch. So in other words, up until this point in time, you will not see the graded layer. You can't see it. However, I don't know, let's say go back 10 frames in. Then I'll turn the crop off. So there's a little animation there. So it will crop at that point. So now you're seeing the VFX shot on track 2. And then here, there's a little animation where the crop comes off. And so you see this wipe across, and that's it. Now, the thing is, I would have to do that obviously for the next one down as well, because I want to crop that so you can see the original shot and then the VFX comes in. Now, rather than having to do this for every single shot, now imagine like so I'm doing it for 3, but you might have a whole timeline. Rather than having to go through and animate each one individually, once you've got one crop working, what you can do is you can copy a clip, and generally most editors will let you do this. Final Cut, I know, does this as well. Once you've applied some kind of motion property or some kind of video effect in an editor, you can copy that clip. However, if you select another clip, you can right click, and rather than pasting that clip back on, you can paste its attributes. So in other words, its properties. So if we go paste attributes, you'll see it paste the crop from this to there. So in other words, it's pasting the information about how that crop animates. Obviously the problem is they both animate at the exact same time, so you won't really see it. But that's fine, because again, it's about timing. So about, say, 2 seconds 10. So I've got this clip selected now, so I can see the crop on there, because the crop's animating at the same time as the previous one. I'm going to pull this forward. So in other words, I'm animating this one slightly earlier now. So this one has a crop at about 2 seconds, this one has a crop at about 4 seconds. So now when I play it, because these both have crops on at the moment, you can't see them, you're seeing the original clip. However, that crop will turn off on here at about 2 seconds, so you'll see the VFX clip, and then it will turn off on the graded clip straight after. And so you'll see that. I'll render it through just because on playback, otherwise it'll just be a bit slow. Although I was hoping the rendering time wouldn't take too long. But hopefully you're proficient enough with editing software that you can figure out how to do these things. I'm just kind of demonstrating a way that I use. Hopefully, here we go. So we can have a quick look at that. And I'll show you a couple of other ways which you could use as well. So like I said, you see your original clip, then your crop will go, you see the VFX work come up, and then you see the one. Okay. Now what's quite nice, or what works quite well with that as well, especially with the grade, is it's such a difference. It's obvious when the wipe occurs, but what if there isn't such a big difference? And I'd say even with the VFX work, it's a bit weird because it just kind of pops out of nowhere. So what I've done as well is I've jumped into example 2. Now what I've done here is another way to do this. However, I would say this way is a little bit more time consuming, because what I've done is, rather than having them in their individual tracks, which is how you should naturally have them, hopefully. So like I said, you would have started off with an edit, you would have gone into After Effects or whichever software you're using to do the motion graphics, and then you would have gone sent that to the graded work. So you would always have developed these individual timelines. So naturally they should sit like this anyway, so that's why it's easier to do that way. What I've done here though is I have cut them so that at the same points, but now I've placed them in one timeline instead. And the reason I did that is because if I go into here, and instead of a crop, I can go for, say, a wipe. And I'm going to go for a transition wipe. And you might be like, well, why transition? So transition allows you to change from one clip to the other. So there we go. So I'll pop the wipe in. However, if I click on that wipe property, notice one of the things you have is a border. You can select a border color and a border width. So if I say I want a border of 10, now along with the wipe, it will give me a border. So if I click on that one, same thing, border width 10, there you go, it gives me that little border. So if I want that, then at least, you know, I like I said, I get that little line that pops along with it, makes it a little bit more obvious. So that's another way to do it. And I guess finally, just finish off, here I've just gone with the original and the final finished version, which is my graded version. So I've kind of ignored all the other steps. And the reason I've gone for that is because when you click on a clip, you have a bunch of motion properties. And those motion properties control things like scale, so I can resize it, but also position, so I can choose where to place that on my screen. And the reason I'm doing that is because then I could click on this one as well, and I could resize that if I wanted to, go to 50% as well, and reposition that however I like. So if I wanted to, I could do it as a picture-in-picture maybe, you know, just with the original and the final version if I wish as well. So that's another way to do it. Probably best to go for about slightly less. I don't want them overlapping. Oh, well, they were just touching, so let's give them that slight gap in there. So that's another way you could position it or show a breakdown. And it's really your choice, however you want to do it. The important thing is, like I said, that a breakdown is submitted, so I can at least compare that work as well. But again, if you wanted to, you could if you wanted to place text in. It gives you room to do that kind of stuff. I do find you'll see wipes and things like that more prevalent, but one of the reasons for that is because they use the full screen real estate. If you think about it here, there's a lot of space in there that you're just not using, because it just has to be left empty because there's nothing else you can put in there, really. I mean, like I said, you can put in a bit of text, but there's a lot of the frame you're missing. So I think that's why wipes are usually more common, because that is using the whole screen, and so you're able to see more detail. But like I said, it's totally your choice. So hopefully some of the information about how to create breakdowns was helpful.